Rev up your engines!
Al Mound says, Scotty, I bought a new 2021 F-150 5-liter Coyote engine. It's making a typewriter sound. If they don't do anything about it, if you're near Clarksville, bring it to me. I'll make a video about it. Make a nice little video and send it to me, ScottyKilmer@gmail.com. I'll watch it. And if they won't do anything about it, I will make a video about it, and I will ring them out for selling engines that aren't made right. It should not make any sound at all. If it sounds like a typewriter, it's got problems. And it takes a while to complain because it's brand new, but complain. Complain, complain, complain. Because if you don't, they'll just keep making them worse and worse and worse. And it shouldn't make any sound. It's a new engine. Complain to them, but make a video. Send it to me so I can actually hear it. Say, here's what Scotty says. I can use that video in one of my videos. And then usually something happens. They don't look bad in front of hundreds of millions of people. You are one person. They might not care, but hundreds of millions of people, they're going to care about that because that's their market that they're selling cars to. Anybody's watching me, they want to know something about cars. They're probably thinking about buying a car. Maybe they'll think about not buying that car if the company doesn't treat them right. He says, I took my 2011 Subaru Impreza to do work and idiots jacked it up from the oil pan it's bent. Should I replace it or let it be? They're idiots. Make them put a new oil pan on. They broke it. Now, let's say you did it yourself. If the engine doesn't clang, 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 it's not hitting anything, and the oil pressure is normal and it's not leaking, you could live with it because there's a reasonable amount of space between the oil pan and the engine. And as long as there was no damage done, let's say it hit where the oil pump scavenge was and it broke it. Well, it wouldn't suck oil and your oil pressure light would come on. If none of that's happening, it could be okay. But they did it. Make them put a new one on. It's their fault for being idiots. If they don't do that kind of work, go someplace that does, send the bill to them. Make them pay. People are stupid. They need to, pay for the stupidity. Chadman says, what will keep a car rust-free in cold weather? Canada. It gets minus 45 here in Manitoba. Hoo-wee! I don't want to live where it's that cold. I lived in Toronto. It didn't get all that cold there, Big city, it wasn't all that cold. It was if you went about 50 miles north, but not there. The problem is, if they use salt on the road, salt sticks on it, and then the salt will start rusting your car. You got to rinse it off. You're not going to be rinsing anything off when it's minus 45 degrees, right? But, now I don't know. When it's that cold, they can't put salt on the road because the salt won't melt the ice at that cold temperature. It'll melt it to a certain degree and then no more. But if they do salt the road, somehow you get that salt off your vehicle. Don't drive it, have a junkie you drive in the winter. If you have access to a heated garage, rinse it off all the time under the fenders, the undercarriage, to keep the salt from rusting everything else if they are using salt. I know when it's really cold, they can't use salt, but if they probably do use quite a bit of salt will eat up your car, so you want to rinse it off as much as you possibly can in a heated garage, even if you pay somebody to do it. Celine J said, Scotty, there's an 04 Mustang GT for sale in Texas. $600. She says it starts, but doesn't drive. Should I fix it up? How much do you know about cars? One, the Mustang GTs, people like them. If he's selling for $600, he says it starts, but it doesn't drive. Well, the transmission at a minimum is shot, but who knows what the rest of the car is because you can't drive this stupid thing. How mechanically adept and how much of a gambler you are. You could always go to a junkyard and buy a used transmission, put it in. It may or may not work. You want to put a real transmission in it that actually works, you're going to spend $3,000 to $4,000 doing it correctly. You got to decide how much do you want to spend, and do you want to gamble on a muscle car that's that old that you can't drive around to even road test it. You're basically paying for a shell. You might end up putting a whole bunch more money in than the thing's worth. If it's a convertible, I'd say go ahead. Everybody loves convertibles. Even if you didn't finish fixing it, you could sell to somebody else who wanted a convertible. But it's a hard top, I'd kind of be iffy. I don't think I'd buy it if it was a hard top. Ashar says, Camry TRD or Civic Type R, which should I get when prices go down? Well, it depends what you want. The Camry TRD is a more luxurious, fast little car. The Civic Type R is a race machine. You can't compare the two. It could be taken on a racetrack. And they drive like race cars. Bangity, 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 bang. I've driven 5 of them, and they were fast. They made a great howling sound, but they're not a car you want to get in and drive to California and back. It hurts your back, your neck. You're even questioning, but you want road test one. The Camry, you don't need a road test. It's a Camry. They're a little stiffer than a regular Camry because it's a TRD, but they handle a lot better. You'd probably be happy with that. The Civic Type R, that's for racers. You want to be a racer? Go right ahead. But if you don't, road test one, you might say, oh my God, the thing rides like a bucket. I never want one of those. You got to test those first. Leon 17 says, Scotty, should I buy a Ford Probe as my first car? Probably not. The Ford Probes, the old ones, they were basically Mazdas. They were kind of cheaply made. They're hard to get parts for. They were kind of clunky cars. Now, you could get them cheap. There's no arguing that. But it'll be an old car and it might be falling apart. I'd say get an old Toyota Corolla or an old Honda Civic instead. It would be a much more reliable car. They were okay, cheaper cars to buy when they were new, and then when they wore out, people just threw them away. Lynn says, my cousin got a 66 Caddy 4-door 2 months ago. He's daily driving it what's warm. He's in Minnesota. Redid the seats and lines, babying it. How long do you think it'll last? Well, a 66 Cadillac could last indefinitely if you change the oil, don't overheat the engine, and baby the transmission. I mean, those things were built like tanks. They got horrendous gas mileage. They're huge monstrosities. The main thing you want to look at is pay a mechanic to put up on a lift and have him check the frame and everything. If the frame isn't rotten, it could last a long time. But if the frame's all starting to rust and come apart, it won't last that long. It's going to be a safety hazard. If the frame's starting to crack and break, and it breaks or you're going down the road, you kill yourself. Make sure it's got a solid frame that's still going to last. If it does, you can keep fixing it and drive it forever, basically. Alex C says, my '07 Honda Odyssey cranks a lot before it turns on. What can I do? A lot of things can make them crank a lot before they start. Do the absolute simplest, logical things first. Check the spark plugs. If they're worn out, change them. That'll do it. Change the air filter. A clogged air filter will do that. Change the fuel filter. A clogged fuel filter can do that. Now, if that doesn't fix it, I have a video, make your car run better with a little spray cleaner. You get MAF airflow spray cleaner. Video shows you how to clean that. And throttle spray cleaner. It's a different kind of cleaner. Clean the throttle. That might fix it entirely. If it doesn't, and it still cranks, but it eventually starts, you might have a professional mechanic like me pressure clean the fuel injectors. They could be dirty and clogged up. And if that doesn't help, probably the fuel pump's starting to get weak. But if it's been doing it for a long time, a lot of guys just live with it. I've had customers drive cars 5 years that way. As long as they start, they said, heck with it. Also, have your battery load tested. A weak battery today, they're different than they used to be. Back in the old days, when you tried starting a car when the battery was dead, it would go, Now, it'll still go run, but it won't give enough juice to start the car. So get the battery load tested. Any auto parts store. And if it's weak, that could also be it, and that's a simple test. Well, it says, what do you think of Tata Motors? Okay, it's an Indian company. I believe they have a very wicked sense of humor. Because at one point in time, Tata Motors bought Jaguar Land Rover. It was like the Indians are trying to get even with the British for colonizing them, so now they're buying the high-class Land Rover and Jaguar cars. Seems to me they bought it to get even for being colonized by the British. Not a smart move. The company's bleeding money like no tomorrow, but be that as it may. They, in India, make cheap cars. They make a car that was, I don't know, really cheap, like $2,000 or $2,500 or something. But from what I know of people in India, even they say those are pieces of crap there. You buy a cheap car anywhere, it's going to be cheap. India's got a lot more money than it used to have, so everybody isn't riding around in those little stupid rickshaw things that are all made in China that cost hardly anything. Even there, they said the Tata was kind of a failure itself. But it's a big company. It owns lots of stuff, so you can't buy them in the United States. They don't sell Tatas, but they do still own a percentage of Jaguar Land Rover, and that's not a good company. They thought they were, they're going to make money buying the English company that makes crappy cars. I don't comprehend that. It's kind of like when the Daimler bought Chrysler. It was Daimler Chrysler. They lost billions on that deal. Then they got rid of and sold them to Fiat. Then the Italians were made fools of it. Now Peugeot, Stellantis owns it, so now the French are going to be made fools of. You think people would learn, but I guess not. Daniel Bitternet says, what's a good day in snow? Well, if it really snows, my son just got one. He got a brand new Toyota Sienna hybrid all-wheel drive. That thing's great in the snow. Hey, it's all-wheel drive. It's hybrid. And those systems are all electronically controlled. The back is all electronically controlled. Electronic controls can handle wheel spin better than anything. Because if you're doing ABS, the active control on a gasoline engine, it's got to control the engine, the wheels, and everything. On the back of that, that's a hybrid. The whole rear end is electric only. There's no power from the gasoline engine. The rear's all electric. The motors are at the wheels. That thing can control electronically like that. It can really react. It's not one system, electric system on top of a gasoline system. It's just an electric system. And believe me, they're great in the snow. Well, I was telling you about a scooter the other day that cost the price of a bicycle. It was like $1,200. Well, guess what? Honda has a UB electric scooter. It's a scooter, and it's $475. That, to me, is amazing. It's called the Wuyang Honda UB. Now, they only sell them in China so far. $475. You can go up to 50 miles on an electric charge. And it looks like a scooter. It just looks like a regular old scooter, but it's electric instead of a gas motor. Now, it does have a small 350-watt motor on it, and up to a 1,150 watt-hour battery. But check it out. I mean, it's a regular looking scooter. And if you could get that for $475, woo-wee. Now, it's a combination of Honda and Chinese company, right? They can build things in China at a very low cost. There's no arguing that. If they could make a scooter like that for $475, I thought it was something that they had $1,200, $1,400 that they were selling in India. Hey, this beats that to a pulp. $475 for a little electric scooter? It's kind of amazing when you think about it. I am presently trying out some of these e-bikes. And so far, I'm rather impressed by them. I got 3 different ones I'm trying out, but they start at like $1,300. And they're just bicycles. This is a little scooter. And from what I read, it's even got the capability of pedaling it if you want. Kind of interesting. They can make some for $475. That kind of blows me away. Of course, they don't sell them in the United States yet. Who knows? But with it being an electric scooter and stuff, there's so many different laws. You're not importing a car that has to meet crash specifications. It's just a scooter. I wouldn't be surprised to see those things in the United States in a very short period of time. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.